you doing? Isn't my cup pyramid amazing? I've been practicing all week for today's game. I've gotten so good at building a cup pyramid. There's a science to it. You have to make sure you space your cups evenly, and you have to be very careful when you add each level to it. It's really fun, but you have to be calm and not have shaky hands. You have to be at peace. Hey, that's our life app for the month. And actually, peace is about way more than just being calm, quiet, and still. Peace is proving you care more about each other than winning an argument. Isn't that the way you want to be treated? Making peace is a great way to build a bridge to someone else, instead of letting disagreement and hurt get in the way. It's a great way to treat others the way you want to be treated. We've got another super cool story coming up about someone who had to decide if she could make peace. You're going to love it, but first, we'll kick things off with another game using some of these. Let's play Build That Bridge.
The magic man is back and I'm ready to build the bridge. This is what we're gonna do. We got toothpicks and marshmallows, some bigger than others. You might want these at the bottom, but I challenge you to build that bridge with me. Well, you know what? I'm a magic man, so you're not gonna be able to beat it quicker than me. Ready? Oh, I almost revealed my magic. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Look at that. Got some of those at the bottom, some of them at the top. Building a bridge. All right, I'm gonna do it again. Here we go. I feel like I need a bigger one. The bigger the bridge, the better. Voila! Look at that. I challenge you to build a better bridge than me. If you do, come show me at church. Hey, we're gonna go into the Bible story right now. Let's go.
King David. He was a pretty famous guy. David was chosen to be the next king of Israel when he was just a young man watching over his flocks of sheep. God had promised that David would one day be king. But in the meantime, King Saul still ruled Israel. Saul was jealous because David had won battles and he was very popular with the people. So Saul kept trying to capture or hurt David. As a result, David and his men spent most of their time living on the run. They had to move around a lot and hide from King Saul and his armies. It wasn't very easy for David, but if he wanted to stay alive long enough to become king, he had to stay on the run from King Saul. Let's dive into our Bible story to see what happens next.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 25.
God had promised David would be king, but for now, King Saul ruled Israel. David lived his life on the run, followed by a group of misfits who had become friends and servants. One day, they arrived in the desert of Paran, near the land of a wealthy man named Nabal, who owned 3,000 sheep.
We'll set up camp here, man.
At first, Nabal's servants didn't know what to think.
Too many strangers around these parts. We've had food and sheep go missing.
But David's men were honorable. They didn't try to steal from the shepherds. In fact, David protected Nabal's shepherds from any harm.
Stay as long as you like, my friend.
About time for sheep shearing, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Nabal will hold a grand feast when it's all over. Your men have helped us, so they should share in the celebration.
David called for 10 of his men and gave them a message to send to Nabal.
On it.
David's messengers hurried up the mountain to Nabal's estate and were brought to stand before him.
Well, what do you want?
Nabal sneered down at the men while he continued to chew on a fine leg of mutton.
David says, "May you live long. May things go well with you."
Continue.
He says, "I hear that you are clipping the wool off your sheep. When your shepherds were with us, we treated them well and protected them. Now please be kind to my men. Please give us any food you can find for us."
Nabal leapt from his seat and hurled the mutton bone across the room.
Who is this David? Probably a runaway servant. Why should I give bread and meat to a nobody and his men who come from who knows where?
David's men returned to camp and delivered the news.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Oh, yes, he did.
Men, put on your swords. We'll make Nabal wish he hadn't.
At no time at all, David and 400 of his men were marching up the mountain to confront Nabal. It seemed there was no stopping a battle. But Nabal's wife, Abigail, was far wiser than her husband. A servant told her what he had done.
David sent messengers asking for food, but Nabal shouted and was rude to them.
Go on.
The whole time we were near them, David's men were good to us. They were like a wall, keeping us safe. You've got to do something now, or terrible trouble will come.
There's no time to waste.
Abigail quickly directed her servants to gather supplies and put them on donkeys.
200 loaves of bread,
Check.
5 sheep,
Check.
1 bushel of cooked grain,
Check.
100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs.
Check. And check.
Well, you go on ahead. I'll follow.
The donkeys, loaded with good food, started down the mountain. Abigail got on her donkey and followed. From the valley, David and his men were approaching.
Everything we've done has been worthless. I watched over this fellow's property, but he's paid me back evil for good. We'll wipe him out.
As David's anger grew, though, he spotted something along the path. A pack of donkeys.
What's this?
Well, it looks like they're carrying something. Food for a feast, I'd say.
Behind the pack of donkeys, Abigail prepared for what lay ahead.
I must stop this.
The moment Abigail saw David, she slid off her donkey and fell face down on the ground before his feet.
Please, let me speak. Let me take the blame for Nabal's actions.
Abigail raised her eyes just enough to notice David's surprised face. He nodded.
Don't pay attention to Nabal. He's always doing foolish things. I'm sorry I didn't get to see your messengers, but I've brought a gift for you. Right now, the Lord has kept you from killing Nabal and his men. Let the Lord deal with your enemies.
Abigail rose to her feet. David and his men listened, surprised by the strength of her message.
You fight the Lord's battles, so he will give your family line a kingdom that will last. He'll make you ruler of Israel. And when he does, you won't have a heavy load on your mind about killing people with no reason. The Lord will give you success. When that happens, please remember me.
Abigail took a deep breath and waited. David smiled.
Give praise to the Lord. He sent you to find me. May he bless you for this. You have kept me from using my own hands to get even.
David's men unloaded the food that Abigail had brought.
Go home in peace. I'll do what you have asked.
Abigail made her way back up the hillside to her home. She had chosen to humble herself and do the hard yet creative work of making peace. In the end, Nabal paid the high price for his foolish anger, but God blessed Abigail.
In the end, Nabal died. He paid a high price for his foolish and angry response to David, but God blessed Abigail. She had chosen to humble herself and do the hard work of making peace. Abigail understood that, and this is our bottom line. You can show you care about others by being part of the solution. Abigail wasn't the one who caused the problem. She wasn't involved in the fight, but she got involved so that she can make peace. She chose to be part of the solution. So I think we should talk to God and ask Him to help us be peacemakers with our friends, our family members, and anyone else who we have conflict with. So will you pray with me? God, please be with us so that we can be peacemakers. Help us to make peace with others. In your name, amen.
Wow, way to go, Abigail. We see through her example that God can work through each of us to make peace between others. Remember, we have the best example of this in Jesus. Jesus loved people so much that he gave his life for us. We can follow his example and help find a solution to what's wrong, even when we aren't involved in the argument. Today's bottom line is you can show you care about others by being part of the solution. Say it with me. You ready? You can show you care about others by being part of the solution. It might seem easier just to stay out of someone else's problems, but you never know how God might use you to be a part of the solution. He gave you a heart that cares about people and a creative mind so you can find ways to help. If a couple of friends are arguing, maybe you could calm the situation down by helping them talk it out. Or maybe you hear some kids talk badly about someone else. You can defend that person and talk about how much you like them and value their friendship. Remember, if you're not sure what to do, you can talk to a trusted adult and they can help you think of ways to step in and make things right. This week, let's be like Abigail, and we'll see you next week, Steamboat Kids.